Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing 5 portfolio wealth tracking tools that I use for various purposes. And I'm just going to quickly go through what are some of my favorite features from them and just lightly discuss even the payable options that you can use. Now, this video is inspired by a comment that I got from Donna Kidd, who recently said, thoroughly appreciate the information you are sharing. I am wondering what methods you use for tracking and also what your routine would be for tracking your investments. Maybe you could do a video on what and how you track as well as your routine for staying on top of your investments. Okay, happy to answer that question. And also, before we get started, I actually want to give a shout out to my man, Robin Haney. Don't know him, but I do follow his story. And you know, when you follow someone on YouTube for a long time, you get to know them. They're almost like not that they would know, but they're like the friend that they don't know that they have, if that makes sense. Okay, but anyway, if it wasn't for following him, I wouldn't have gone into the first two tools that I'm going to share with you, which are Passiv and Wealthica. Great tools for different purposes, but definitely give him a sub and follow that story, because seems like a really awesome dude. We're going to get into it. The 5 we're covering: Passiv, Wealthica, Blossom, Stock Events, and Yahoo Finance. So here we go. What you're going to see first with Passiv, this is a portfolio allocation tool. What it does is it's going to retrieve information from the different brokerages. So for me, that's Wealthsimple and Questrade. You're going to see 14 different funds here. I've set basically a 10% target for all of them. You can see that all my actuals are a lot higher than the targets, only because HTAE, it's a 10% target with barely anything invested into it. I recently just added that. As we go to the top here, what I mean by it's pretty hands-off is that when you set a target and it's under the target, any money that you deposit into your brokerage accounts, it's going to tell you basically what to buy. And which one is lacking the most, it's going to want you to buy more of that. And basically it'll rise all together. So if you buy everything in sequence together, basically should hit your targets at the same time. Or you could do, obviously, focus on one. If there's weakness, say in financials, focus on maybe that target for the next little while. But for me, because everything else is overweight, and this is the biggest underweight thing by far, it's basically just going to tell me to buy HTAE. Okay, so that's it with Passiv. Let's go over into Wealthica. Okay, with Wealthica, a lot of good features in here, but so now I do have the payable version because there's one feature in here that I really like, and for $10 a month, it's this total return tracking tool. So usually this is all filled in. I'm just hiding it because I'm not ready to show you guys the full breakdown portfolio yet. This might confuse some people, but see, this column and this column are just price appreciation. We got weight, but this is what I care about the most. This is price appreciation, and it's the dividends included as well. So that's why, like, you'll see, like, ENCC is probably a better example. The price appreciation is 4.4 per 6, but if you include the dividends, this position is almost up 7%. I actually haven't even held ENCC for that long, maybe a couple of months. And so, hey, it's doing its thing with the energy sector there. My biggest losers, which is not really that surprising, we have Call, ZWK, BKCL, and HMAX, which are all financials focused. Luckily for me, ZWK and Call, even though they're both down 8% and 5.37% total return, they are such a tiny sliver of my portfolio, whereas HMAX is only down, say, 0.35%, and BKCL down 2.81%. So I'll keep buying into these into the financials once I up my positions inside of Passiv with HTAE. that is a great feature. That's what I really like. Let's head to another one. Okay, so what you can see here inside Wealthica is this bar. I think it only allows you to keep like 8 of these little apps in here. You can do budgeting. Documents is meant to pull all your tax information, but I have yet to see that automatically happen. Balance sheet. Income, again, another good one for tracking your dividends and the individual amounts. Fees, of course, what your trading costs are, it'll track that, which is really great if you are someone who, say, doesn't use Wealthsimple. Maybe you use Questrade, or maybe some other a bank direct investing where you got to pay, say, upwards of like $10 per trade, which, I mean, I used to have actually TD Direct Invest. That was the first one I ever started with, and then I basically ported all that all those investments over to Wealthsimple because I knew I'd rather just buy in small amounts and I wouldn't have to pay anything for it. Okay, so it keeps track of that. Realized gains, another great feature. I'm not going to bother clicking on it because that's just what it's tracking. Okay, another good one. This is another favorite of mine. Now, I believe all those apps you can get for the free version. This is a total return performance metric. Just to see how you do against various indexes, right? So the S&P 500 is a classic. You can see that, the cover call strategy had been holding its own. The bull market took off, and that's where you see the cover call strategy kind of lag behind. But you can even see that during the correction of August, the cover call portfolio has actually kind of just maintained and even improved a bit over time. Those are kind of my favorite features. I believe all of these are free. I mean, again, just try it out, see if you can do it. This is the web-based version. There is an app. I don't even use the app because it has none of this stuff. So next up, we're going to be looking at Blossom. With Blossom, it is advertised as the first kind of social investing app in Canada, I should say. And it's got a ton of great features. I actually do pay for this one. The public view, so this is what anyone trying to check out my portfolio, this is what they're gonna see. Again, it's a read-only format, just like Passiv and Wealthica, where they take info from your brokerage accounts and they just let it be viewed inside their web-based platforms. Okay, so portfolio, you could any one of you checking out this portfolio could look at my portfolio here. You can add a watch list. You can do a comparison, say again to the S&P 500. It's not total return, but it is price-based. I don't really use that. This one's pretty interesting. You versus Blossom. All the sectors that you're invested in versus what Blossom is invested in. So for instance, it's kind of interesting to see most of Blossom is invested in 35% financials. I'm down in the 14.6 range, but I'm really overweight compared to Blossom when it comes to, say, healthcare, energy a little bit, and everything else there. You can see a bit of a mismatch between that, but it doesn't mean that you have to do what the Blossom community is doing, but it is just interesting to see where the sectors kind of line up in your own portfolio versus Blossom. Of course, one of the best features is the dividend. I can see my average yield, 11.48%. In the private view, you can see the dividend income that you've made so far this year. You can see what you've made, say, last year. And then, of course, in the dividend forecast, it can show you what you're going to make, say, annually, just on an annual basis, especially if you're dollar cost averaging. This will keep moving upwards. And it's kind of nice to have that separation. That is a newer feature that they recently added. Of course, you have all your posts. This is where, of course, I put a lot of the YouTube videos, or at least one place where I post a lot of the YouTube videos. Trades, again, everyone can see this if you add me. You can see what most people hold, so VFE and Bridge. The highest, the most held cover call ETF is HYLD. Most mentioned, like what are people talking about, just in a rank order, and Bridge. Let's see, you can add You can add different topics that you want to follow. So you can see dividends, ETFs, passive income. These are all the ones I follow. And these are the other ones I could follow. And again, maybe you don't want to necessarily swamp your own feed. So that's pretty much it for Blossom. Sleek. It's a great portfolio tracker for your dividends. I believe you can only get the dividend portion if you pay for it. Okay, next up we are looking at stock events. This is like one of the OG apps that I started using when I was first starting out in October of 2020. Okay, so I just kind of have a fake portfolio amount with a bunch of stocks and ETFs I don't hold. Okay, so what I really like about this feature is, let's go to the For You page, is this calendar. I really like this. So I do still use stock events. I just populate the holdings. And what it'll give me is dividends for the stocks I hold when they're upcoming. I also get the inflation reports, the interest rate reports, and the employment numbers for Canada, the US, and the European Union. It also, as you can see there, it shows upcoming, but it also shows the past events as well if you need to go back for some reason. So if we go into holdings, the free version only allows you to populate this with 15, I believe. 15 positions. There's analytics as far as the allocation of everything you have. You need to pay to see the sectors and industries types. I would like the country breakdown of my portfolio. That would be kind of interesting to see, just where, if I'm more overweight in Canada or the US, or how much is for global, because I'm probably need a little bit more global in the portfolio, but nonetheless, I don't really use that too much. Again, just the calendar. Dividends, annual dividend income. It doesn't track it. This is not a, it doesn't link to your brokerage at all. So this is more manual input based. So if you click on, say, Enbridge, you would hit shares, and then you would enter in the number of shares you have. You can even include average price if you want to see that. But again, this is just as an example. And last but not least, let's get into Yahoo Finance. Okay, so what I use Yahoo Finance for is more for watch lists. So now we're going to go over into just the sidebar here. So you can see here that these are all the watch lists that I've put together. And again, this is a manual input. So what you can do, if there's positions that you have, you can't track dividends with Yahoo Finance, but it gives you real-time data as far as if you're interested in buying something. I almost never go to the brokerage price. I always go to Yahoo Finance first. And if you are someone who maybe doesn't buy regularly, like say every day, then it's a good way of just updating this, say maybe once a month, once every 2 weeks. And you can easily do that by not being on basic. You go to holdings, you can hit just add, and then put in your price, shares, trade date, and then just hit done. I'm not going to do that. And then it's going to give you, and it's going to populate this all of this other information over here with obviously your top gainer, top percentage, average cost. But again, this is more watch list focused. That basically wraps it up for the tools I use, why I use them, and hopefully you guys got some decent info out of this. I know it's kind of a crazy breakdown of 5 different platforms, but hopefully you can walk away with this with a little bit of inspiration. Maybe you can pick and choose for yourself. Some of them may not suit your purposes, but I think it was a worthwhile topic covering, especially if you are getting into income ETFs and you want to track that income. I think it's important to at least use some of these aggregator tools to your advantage. So if you like what you saw, then as always, do the cliche thing and hit all the buttons of the like and subscribe variety, and I'll see you all in the next video.